for most of my life, I have been swung in between these two poles of, really often understanding or, wanting to do many things, having many ideas. Oh, we could do that. Oh, we could do that. Like, coming up with loads of stuff to do, but then actually having a really hard time doing it. My fiance, she's now, when I speak to her about me at school, she's like, yeah, you had ADHD. You've probably still got it. That's just who you are. And I'm like, if only I'd known back then, I wouldn't have thought I was lazy. Everyone else wouldn't have thought I was lazy. I'd just be like, okay, yeah, sure. Let me go and do whatever. Give me all the Ritalin. I'll be fine. But instead, I just went through most of my childhood and young adulthood just really sort of between these two things, having a huge amount of energy and ideas, and then I'd sort of like get around to doing it, and I'd just sort of go and wrap myself up in myself and just not quite be able to get stuff off the ground, and it was really tricky. I suppose it's this car journey that I went on many years ago now, which really got me into the sort of frame of mind, which is that I can go and start things, I can actually go and do things, I can have ideas and then go and make them happen. And it was a car journey from London to Barcelona. It was a rally, and the reason I did it was in order to raise money for cancer research. And the reason I did that was that when I was 10, my mum died and had to go and look at it in the face. And yeah, that is, you go and have a look at death. To my mind, I came from nothing. I'm gonna go to nothing for this small bridge of time, this small bridge of existence, this small bridge of consciousness. Yeah, I am overwhelmed whenever I get to think about that. Really? Like, to just go and think about this little space of existence between total nothingness and I get to have it. Yeah, it is everything that drives me. And it comes from looking death in the face. My first stand-up show was called Another Heartbreaking but Ultimately Life-Affirming Show About Death. And it's really about that. And I don't know how this is coming across, but I often get a look in my eye, right? Get a look in my eye when I really think about it. Like, to really think that, like, you're gonna die. And that's fine. It's just nothing. It's just the same nothing that existed before you were born. So, like, it's nothing. But right now, there's something. Right now, in fact, there's more things than your mind can even begin to fathom. More sensations, feelings, thoughts, emotions. Really, your brain has to try really hard to just filter all that's going on into something you can comprehend. But to be a human is to experience consciousness, experience thoughts and sensations, and in a way that is totally unusual, totally bizarre for matter. And as far as we know it, we're the only collections of atoms that get to feel like this. And so death bears a lot, has a lot of responsibility and a huge place in my sort of philosophical makeup, because it brings you face to face with the gloriousness of existing. People do ask me and ask Sunday Assembly, how can you have an organization that is built around celebrating life? Like, if you go and think about life in its entirety, then the times you want to celebrate, that's just a small slice of the pie or pie chart, depending on how you visualize it. And in fact, it's about looking at life in its entirety as the blessing. It's looking at life in all of its complexity, and it's like going, yeah, actually, there's going to be some really painful moments, but you don't get to have the rest of it without those. You know, grief is the price we pay for love. You know, sort of doubt is the price we pay from being able to choose which way we want to go. And if we want to have the benefits, you know, there comes with it these other things which are actually all part of it. And it might not feel like that at the time, but, you know, being able to celebrate life in its complexity is a way of actually making those moments less bad, of being able to say, oh, actually, even this pain is part of this overall thing for which I'm grateful. And, you know, it's a bit like, you know, Brussels sprouts at Christmas. You know, you've got to deal with the Brussels sprouts if you want to get the rest of the Christmas dinner. You just put up with it. And once you see the Brussels sprouts as part of the rest of the Christmas dinner, they become bearable. So that's a perfect analogy. What's the gravy? Yeah, and I think also there's another thing about celebrating life, which if you are able to turn it into a series of habits or practices, then it becomes something which not only do you look at this bad thing that you're experiencing and, you know, find a way to go and like separate from it and see it as part of something bigger, which is important and is, you know, worth celebrating. But actually those times when, I was thinking today, it's quite like, you know, the celebrating life is actually a bit like trying to become a connoisseur of wine or of tea. That, you know, trying to become a connoisseur of life means that you're able to sort of appreciate it more. And I think that's the thing of, like, if you've got this idea that, oh yeah, like, I'm just going to try and work out the best way to do this analogy. So let's imagine that, you know, you've never tried wine before in your life. You don't even know that you like it. You get given some fantastic, you know, 250-pound bottle of wine. I don't know, something like that, 50. And you get given this glass of it and you go, I'll go and try that. You're like, yeah, that's nice. And I think instead, but then it's actually to really appreciate it, you're going to have to do lots of it. You're going to have to really learn about it. You're going to have to take time to sample it, to build up this knowledge inside you, to build up different ways of understanding of it. And the more you build that up, the more you're going to appreciate really all different types of wine. You're going to appreciate you know, that super expensive one. You're going to appreciate the one which is just because you're in the sun and it's just the perfect one for that. You're going to have it a different one, and it's not saying that you're only going to react to these like amazing ones, but you're going to have a sensitivity which goes and enables you to appreciate it more as a whole. And so if you look at like building up your appreciation of life like that, then actually it becomes like a series of practices, a series of every now and again you just forget. A series of practices, a series of, oh damn, I've already said practices. A series of little activities or tasks that you can do every day, and just bit by bit, you can transform really so many other situations by bringing a new sensitivity to it. Like once you start to realize that, like, you know, we're being bathed in wine here, and it's up to you whether you want to drink it up. When I was 10, my mum died, and it was one of those things, we never really spoke about it in my family. It, you know, like, that is, by the way, top-level Britishness. Your mother's died, let's not talk about it forever. And so I spent a long time, you know, sort of like learning how to cope with it, but not really knowing how to deal with it. And so just through my life, I've like had different moments when like something has changed inside, like this tectonic shift of emotions, and you go, oh, you learn something new about yourself. And so in my early 20s, I realized that like you know, that like how weird it was that I hadn't really spoken about it, and also how weird it was that, you know, that it's not like that was I had ever gone and raised money for cancer research, or I'd gone and done something else for cancer research. I was like, okay, I want to go and do something. I want to go and give something back. I want to go and be able to remember my mother and, you know, go and have something, you know, to commemorate her by. And then I sort of rang round, and I sort of was like, okay, we're gonna go from London, and then sort of planning out a route on the map, and then sort of was slowly putting it together, and then, you know, speaking to lots of my friends about it, and it was like, okay, we're going to do it, it's all going to be in fancy dress. And then gradually, bit by bit, different people came on board. There were people I'd never met before, there were some old friends, there were some people who I didn't know that well, and slowly this thing amassed. And now looking back on it, that was one of the times where I was like, okay, this is something that I want to do, and, you know, sort of was able to corral the different pieces to, you know, get something from just being a nice idea to something actually happening in the world. And so I think it was in the Kill Cancer Death Rally that sort of like was the start of being able to pull things together, and, you know, being able to see the ideas and making them and having them happen in the world. It isn't something which other people do. It isn't something that you need permission for. There's no limits on what you want to do with it, but you can then go and make it happen. And so that's the story I wanted to share. And I think that people often, you know, after a while, if you've done a few different things which go and capture people's imaginations, if you go and do a few different things which are a bit unusual, then occasionally people will say, oh God, you know, how do you do that? And I think the key is, like, if you're trying to work out, oh, I've got this idea, is just starting things. Start small things, do little things. But once you go and exercise that muscle, once you go and get your first thing into the world, once you go and create it, and you can go and see this expression of you which has come forward in the way only you can do it, then, well, one, it's pretty addictive, but then you can go and build from there and go and make the things that you want to happen.